Our next session for the day is a panel discussion session. It is titled Learning is Key to India's Growth. Our moderator for the session is Dr. Arpita Dutta. I would like to introduce Dr. Arpita Dutta. Dr. Arpita Dutta is a distinguished professional with over 2 decades of expertise in human resources, learning and development, organization development, and leadership development. Lives of 31,000 professionals have been impacted by her innovative training programs. She has worked as an adjunct professor for centers of excellence in talent, team, stakeholder, and strategic management. She is also a certified corporate director by the Institute of Directors. She is also certified by ICF, ABNLP, MEPSC, and Dale Carnegie. As a founder of Cherryskillz Learning Private Limited, she and her organization is recognized by Startup India of Government of India. She has very recently published her first book, Life Knots to Breakthroughs, in December 2023. She is also a senior ISTD member and a National Council member of ISTD. We welcome her to the stage, ma'am. The panelists for this session are Dr. V. Padmaja, Mr. Jairam, Mr. Surya Mohapatra, Mr. Suraj Chetri, and Dr. Nilanjana Baduri. We call upon you onto the stage, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So our session after lunch, Atul sir actually had done a fantabulous job in what he discussed and spoke about on learning is the key to India's growth story. Okay, so I would request all our esteemed panel members to have a seat, please.
Hello and good afternoon to all.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the decibel this side should be equal to that side because 1:1 and 200 roughly around 200 that side. So can we equate that? So once more?
Yes, very good afternoon.
So me first, after me. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Pat you back. You have the energy? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed panelists and distinguished guests, welcome to this enlightening panel discussion on a topic of utmost significance for the future of our nation. Learning is the key to India's growth story. Before we proceed, let me set some context. Any idea how panel discussion this is the 5th one we are having in these 2 days. So how panel discussion was invented? Sorry? Self-introduction, okay, I got one answer. Any other answers from this side or this side? How panel discussion was invented? Panchayat. You raise your hand, sir, please.
First we should introduce the people. What is the theme of the presentation? What is the role of individual presenter? After that, the person who is coordinating them should ask the question. Point number 1, point number 2, the participation.
So that's the format. Yes, take it.
Participation.
Take it, take it.
Process.
2 more hand raises, I guess. Yes, please, quickly. In 30 seconds. You raise your hand? Are you? Family, okay, wow. So that's a group discussion as well. Panel discussion, okay. Okay, so it is like this. I read an article by Scott Kirsner. He mentioned in that article, the panel discussion was invented by someone who likes to sit 3 feet above his audience. We are maintaining the same. Talk with 5 of his or her closest friends. We are good friends. for an hour. So we have the permission as per the model. Yeah, 1 hour. And this we are not doing, but and barely acknowledge that there are 100 people in the room. I will completely acknowledge the presence of all of you here. Don't worry. Okay? Usually sitting in uncomfortable chairs. This looks very comfortable, the chairs. Right? So that was one small context. The main context to our learning is the key to India's growth story is this. In the evolving landscape of global economics, technological advancements and social dynamics, the role of education and continuous learning has never been more crucial. As we gather here today, we are confronted with the reality that learning is not just a means to the end, but rather the very foundation upon which India's growth trajectory rests. From our rich history to the promising prospects of tomorrow, the ability to adapt, innovate, and educate ourselves has consistently propelled our nation forward. It is our collective responsibility to not only recognize the pivotal role of education, but also to chart a course forward that ensures a brighter and more prosperous future for our nation. We have an inspiring lineup of panelists today to provoke our thoughts and kindle actions towards this direction. Our diverse and esteemed panel today comprises experts from various fields and industries, each offering a unique perspective on how learning is intricately woven into the fabric of India's growth narrative. Together, we aim to delve into the multifaceted aspects of education, exploring its role in economic development, technological advancement, and cohesion, and more. Let me quickly introduce each of our esteemed panel members. I, in fact, was discussing, each of this is running to several pages, the introduction. So I took the permission from all of them to make it brief, crisp. So since I have the permission, I'll do the honor. Let me introduce Dr. Padmaja. She is the Professor and Head, Center for Leadership at Ramaiah Institute of Management. She has a total of 27 years of experience. After completing PGDPM from XISS, she worked for about 12 years, both in government and private sector. Her passion for training motivated her to shift her career towards higher education. We are glad to have you here, ma'am. Thank you. We have Surya Prakash Mahapatra. He is currently the head of talent skilling at Wipro Enterprise Futuring and has over 25 plus years of experience in various leadership roles in several leading IT and ITS organizations. Prior to Wipro, he worked with Hewlett Packard, Microland, First Ring, Computer Garage, and few other organizations. He has extensive experience in setting up and running learning and OD development functions for organizations in India and international locations. We are glad to have you here, sir. Mr. Suraj Chetri completed his bachelor's in sociology from Ranchi University and PGDPM from XISS in 1993. He has worked across multiple sectors during his illustrious career spanning over 30 years. He has been a part of Bata, Bosch, GM, and Textron, where he was the Deputy MD for India and a member of the board. He is currently the Regional Director HR, Airbus India and South Asia, and the Head of Site, Bangalore Operations of Airbus India. We are glad to have you, Suraj. Mr. Jayarama Thimaya. I hope I pronounced it right. Okay. With over 4 decades of distinguished experience in the industry, Mr. Jayaram is a highly seasoned professional and technical advisor with GIZ, a German development corporation. He holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from BMS College of Engineering, Bangalore. His illustrious career includes leadership roles at GKW Limited, L&T Micro Bosch, TVS Motors, and Tata Motors, where he served as head of HR in Dharwad and as a director at Karnataka German Technical Training Institute, Government of Karnataka. We are glad to have you here, sir. And last but not the least, we have Dr. Nilanjana Paduri. As a seasoned people and organizational development practitioner, she brings over 2 decades of expertise in leading organizational change and transformative initiatives. Her focus centers on cultivating responsible and sustainable capabilities with particular interest in leadership development, career coaching, cross-cultural collaboration, diversity inclusion, and innovation management. She is serving as the Senior Director Human Resources at Cyient. In previous role as Director of Learning and Development at Harman International, she managed the portfolio across automotive, lifestyle, and digital transformation services. We are glad to have you here. Thank you. Okay. Am I audible? So we have the mics. I think we are sitting quite far. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so this is a very training topic, which is learning is the key to India's growth story. Now, how can we bridge? This is the first question on behalf of the audience that we have. How can we bridge the gap between traditional education systems and the evolving needs of a rapidly changing economy to ensure that learning remains relevant in shaping India's growth trajectory? So shall we start with Surya, and then other panelists can always add on that.
This is a very interesting question. I think we are talking about the growth of India's economy, and is the education system ready to keep pace with the growth, with the change that's happening, and what we need to do to bring about changes in the system. I think before this panel discussion began, Atul talked about India's growth story, and he has given fantastic statistics. I personally believe that the education system, educational institutions are in the right position, in the right place, at the right time of history, where they can actually make an impact. So the huge demographic advantage that India has, if we know how to tap this potential, we can double our GDP, and we can really move faster in terms of the economic growth. And we have also started seeing changes. I was looking at some of the statistics. The employability of young people in the country has increased from 46% to about 50%, which is a great sign. But we really need to catch up, because we have a huge population, and if it is untapped, then we are not really going to take advantage of this. So in today's world, while organizations and countries talk about currency, the truth today is skill is the new currency. It's not the USD or the INR or whatever. It is the skill which is the new currency. We are a 1.4 billion population country, but is the population skilled enough? So we have the largest young population. Educational institutions have the right opportunity. Millions of youngsters are actually starting their higher education every year. So I think educational institutions have the right opportunity. But what we really need to do today is to understand in what direction the whole world is moving. What are the changes which are taking place? How do we adapt to this change? I think the most important thing today, that the change that we need to see is moving from a 4-year curriculum to a 4-month curriculum. because it's the age of rapid skilling. Atul was talking about what you need to learn and what you need to forget. So it's the age of learning and probably learning, unlearning and relearning. I think, so how do you really churn out curriculum where we can skill people rapidly? That is a very, very important need today. And I personally believe that educational institutions, while in the recent past has really moved very, very fast, but traditionally educational institutions have been very slow. And we need to actually move quickly and adapt to the changes. I think research, the whole world is changing. But, unless educational institutions emphasize research, which I personally believe that we're lacking today, we definitely need commercialization of research. We need extensive research where that we really churn out people, we really churn out the right body of knowledge, which is extremely important. And in the interest of time, I know we have other panelists and lots of questions. One more thing I would like to probably talk about before I kind of hand over is the making sure that our curriculum is more application oriented and bringing and it's important to bring experiential and action learning into the curriculum and education system. Otherwise, we will create degree holders, diploma holders, but who probably may not be employable. I think these are some of the things that we need to really drive for the education system to keep pace with the economic growth.
Absolutely. Thank you, Surya. So I just made a couple of points. Adapting to change, how fast we can adapt to change, adopt. And of course, making the learning more experiential so that it stays with us. And we heard about, retention, what to forget fast so that we can create room for new learnings, and what to forget last, right? So a lot of insights, Surya, and I would request Suraj, you want to add? Nilanjana, you want to add? And Jairam as well.
I'd like to add something and subtract something also from what has already been said. If you've heard me speak about this subject earlier, you will hear me say that the only digital gawar of this century will be someone who thinks he knows everything, and that he doesn't have to learn, relearn, unlearn, and learn again, very similar to what Atulji said about. Having said that, you have an ecosystem of education that has brought us so far. We have to appreciate that when we are talking about skilling is going to change and it's going to be the next growth story, probably we'll have to quantify that and say, for 10% of the population of India, because skilling is making no difference of what we talk about to the entire India that we never talk about, which is below the education line. So when we're thinking about skilling, I think the important thing is if knowledge and information is growing at the pace that we are seeing all across the world, education will have to keep pace with what is happening. And I'm not a magician or a fortune teller, but I can tell you for sure, if there is no collaboration between the universities and colleges and companies, we will not need the universities and the colleges moving forward. That will surprise you to say, kids, you will not lose your jobs, but you'll have much more efficient and effective ways of learning, which thanks to a lot of intervention doesn't happen today. And I can tell you from my experience, we've started universities and we've started curriculums internally because the ecosystem is not able to provide what we're looking at. We're looking at technology, which is to the nth extreme. We're looking at safety of people. We're looking at rocket science. And all these things are not available. Today, there is no guarantee that an engineer that passes out is an engineer. There is no guarantee that an engineer that passes out is an engineer. There is no guarantee that an MBA that passes out is a business person that can understand. What is happening is, because of the influx or because of the environment that we are living in, education has lost the relevance the moment you have gained it. You understand what I'm saying? The moment you are taught about something, there is something new that is taking its place then and there that you should be aware of. It is not that, like when I was in class 10, I said, I finished class 10, bus, I don't have to work anymore, I don't have to study anymore, enough. Then someone told me there's a +2 also. I finished +2 and I said, chalo, ho gaya, padhai pura. Then they told me, no, there's graduation also after that. Finished graduation, then they told me there's a master also. Thank God my parents didn't encourage me to do PhD. So what I'm trying to tell you is, experience is more important than knowledge. Knowledge just gives you the fundamental building blocks upon which you have to base your entire experience, and that is what counts. And I'm seeing in a fine way, I'll give you a couple of examples from industry and then I'll keep shut, of how that is happening. Earlier, if you remember, you had engineers that would do coding, they'd do developing, someone would check the codes, someone will do a graphic user interface, GUI, someone will do the software development, and everything would then come together. Today, all that has disappeared. We have one person that we hire called the full stack developer. Even in aerospace, I can tell you, today we have aerospace engineers and you have digital engineers that merge what the aerospace understanding is into a digital fungible technology. Tomorrow, you'll have digital aerospace engineers. Likewise, think about the building blocks that you will have. If you think your education that you've got today from the university is going to hold you good in your career, you are wrong. Look at different ways and opportunities that are available to take this. I always say, if you look at the word development, if I break the word development down, first is develop. Okay? DEVELOP is develop. That's what you should do. Then the two other alphabets after that is me. Who do you develop? Yourself. There is no one else that is going to develop you. The driving seat of learning and education and development is in your hands. If you think it's in the hands of the company that you join or the organization that you are studying in, probably you will remember what I said 5 years down the line when you are out of a job. Develop myself to what extent is the last two words that tells you. Which extent? The nth extent, N and T. To the nth extent, so that no one can tell you that you are redundant and not required in the industry. That's where I shut up, and back to you, Doctor.
Wonderful, wonderful. I could take out, there would be, I think, a lot of insights and points that we would have taken out from both Surya and Suraj, what both of them covered. So 4 important points, which I can quickly summarize. Being agile. Things are changing so fast. Requirements are changing so fast. So today we are learning something. We again need to kind of gear up with what is the trend, and we learn that as well. So things are changing so fast. So being agile. And experience is more important than knowledge. You gain experience through working, by experimenting, right? Internships are something that we must do as many as possible. So gaining experience is very, very important to gain the knowledge. Being a specialist, not a generalist, okay? And the crux, development, if we break it down into develop, me, and NF, that was the beauty of it. And over to you, Madam, or Mr. Jaira.
Okay, thank you. Both of my friends on the panel discussion discussed about very relevant points. But what I see, the topic for the panel discussion is learning is the key to Indian economy. If you look at, we have a very classic examples in front of our eyes. Learning is not only at the educational institutes or the students who get into from industry, institutes to industry. Many of the industries in the past who never tried to make an attempt to learn, for their employees today they are vanished. So it's a classic example. Same thing happens if today the students get into the college with big gap. By the time they go and learn in the industry and pick up what is required for the market, industries are not ready today. Here where the institutions need to play a very key important role, they need to get proper linkage with the industries, very important. If you look at the Germany, because where I'm working with one of the German development corporation, the linkage with the industry starts at the school level. Probably the student at the level of 7th or 8th, when he started learning, as a part of vocational, he gets exposure to an industry. See, not only understanding the industry slowly within 2-3 years, he understands the entire business gamut. In turn, by the time he comes 12 years or 15 years, he will be well aware of what is economy in Germany. So this is where today, one side, of course, we are all working in silos. Institutes are working in silos. Industries are also not ready to come and be partnered, but it is improving, not saying it is zero. But this is not the rate at which we need to now develop the relationship between the industry as well as the institutes. Because syllabus are framed once upon a time, not, as curriculum has not been changed long time, but industries are moving in a very fast environment because they pick up a lot of things from the customers, from the global, whereas still institutes lag a lot. Important thing here is another thing in terms of learning, the contributors are Mr. Atul Sharma mentioned, the teachers. Today, if you look at the Indian context, very sad to say to the teacher fraternity, the competence of the teacher with respect to what is required in the market is not exactly matching. Along with the students, the teachers also need to now regularly update and be with what is happening in the industry, what is happening in the knowledge or educational field. That's most important. So otherwise, just learning for the sake of will be learning. We learn something, we unlearn something, we learn something. That is the challenge today. So today the main focus, if you ask me, all the stakeholders need to work very closely in order to survive, in the business as well as to contribute to the Indian economy. Thank you.
Thank you. So, very important takeaways. FDP, that is a faculty development program, should be conducted as frequently for the to adapt to the change. When we are discussing about the academia and industry collaboration, there should be an upliftment all around, students as well as the faculty. And also you mentioned about the broad exposure for the students having, internships in different levels, in different organizations, to have larger understanding of the domains as well. So over to you, ma'am.
First of all, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. When you're in Bangalore, speak Kannada is what I realized, and I learned in the last 10 years, 12 years of my stay in Bangalore. Prior to that, when I was in Delhi, I learned to say Sadda Delhi. So the first thing that I learned is adapt and adapt yourself to the culture and where you're working. So a warm good afternoon to all the young minds. My good friend Meera Uday. I see a few familiar faces, Mr. Ram Navratna, Mr. Purnappa, and all other faculty members from different parts of, from different colleges who are attending this ISTD conference. Taking a cue from where Suraj left, Suraj, some of us and most of us have done PhD for academic growth, and it is now mandatory for us to involve and indulge in research, to bring in the research aspects into teaching learning process. Having said that, Arpita, my answer to your question would be, when we talk of experiential learning, the first thing that I would always ask the class, when I see a thin attendance in my class for various reasons, the beginning of the semester or the closure of the semester, in between the attendance is very good. But for various reasons, when the attendance is thin, the first thing I ask the students, I genuinely ask them, what is it that you want? Ma'am, no class. Case studies also, we do them, in a very discussion mode. But when there is no response, when we have to say the answers for most of the questions, that's the time when I realize that a frontal mode doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anywhere. We are not in the frontal mode of teaching. Having said that, the students want projects to be away from the classroom, from the institute, from the institution where they are studying. So when I took them what is that? We went to the Kelachandra group 2 months back. I took them for an industry visit. You will not believe the attendance was full. I kept the bus waiting for the last student to come. They were so happy. They came back and they gave a presentation and a good report of what they had learned at the site. So one way of integrating a good experiential learning is to bring in industry inputs in the form of live projects, guest lectures from industry experts. We've been doing that. So if it's a 3-credit course, we are making our best efforts to bring in at least 2 guest lectures in each course in 1 semester, which means 2 or 3 modules of the curriculum are being covered through industry experts. So we are not doing those modules in the class. It is through the industry experts. And we've been doing that for the last couple of years. That is 1 guest lectures. We are giving them integrated live projects right from the first semester, wherein the students are actually working with startups, NGOs, industry experts. It could be a data collection. It could be a secondary survey. That's actually giving them a lot of first-hand inputs about what is expected out of them during the summer internship. That's the first semester. The second semester, they have a 6 weeks of summer internship. Post that, it's in the form of a presentation, and then the academic rigor of research starts. So if you were to ask me, learning and experiential learning brings about a lot of change in the young minds, and that makes them ready to be equipped with the right skills. I don't know whether I'm using the word right skills, but at least they're ready to face the campus interviews during the placement process. Another point which I would genuinely like to make is that, as Suraj rightly said, are we delivering it effectively? I'm not talking about teaching. Are we good facilitators? I'm not even calling ourselves as faculty. Are we good facilitators to train and understand the young minds so that we know what is it that they expect, so that they are ready to face the industry and placements during the months of September, October, and moving forward? So the onus is on us as facilitators. I'm not calling ourselves as teachers, but as facilitators, the onus is on us to understand what is it that the young minds want. And the third point, Arpita, which I'd like to make is that, if out of 60 students, even if 20 students come and if I ask them what brought you to the class, and even if 5 students say that, ma'am, I wanted to attend your class and I didn't want to miss your class, that's when I feel that my teaching learning process is like a complete cycle and a circle. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am.
I'll take a leaf from all of these, because there's been lots spoken about the faculty development and all of the pan-India stuff, because one is this very urban kind of thing where some of us are privileged to have this kind of faculty to lead us and to give us all of these industry insights and others. But what about the pan-India? And there I'll take a pause and ask, maybe breaking your rule of the panel discussion, trying to find out from the audience. Trying to find out from the audience, how many of you remember the periodic tables? You remember studying it? You studied it once upon a time? Do you remember what was the 97th element? Where will you go to find that information? Google. So with all humility, somewhere we need to accept the fact, and that applies not just to you. Trust me, even I really don't remember what is the 97th or 98th element, but it is a reality today that we cannot compete with Google or internet, so to say, to know everything. That's just not possible. And when we are looking at developing ourselves, staying relevant, every generation, when we are saying that generative AI is going to disrupt, etc., every generation's faced it in their own times. The seniors in the room, they would have also seen it. I'm seeing it. I'm sure my children will also sit in this dais someday and say, oh, everything's getting disrupted. There would be instead of Gen AI, that would be called something else. it's going to stay. It's not going to go away because the technology, the way it develops, all of it's going to stay. Now, what happens to the learning process? And that's where, at the cost of a matinee story, I'm going to share that story with you. Please don't fall asleep. This is a social experiment which was done a while back in 2000s by Professor Mitra, and it's called a hole in the wall experiment. Okay, so he just put in a machine in the classroom, or not even a classroom. He actually went to a village in Tamil Nadu called Kalikulam, if I'm not much mistaken. And he went there and he put in a box that internet enabled. 3G was working out there, so he just left that dabba sitting below a tree with his students, set of students who speak only Tamil. They do not know a word of English. And he gave them a problem statement saying, find out about something to do with biological microbiology, DNA generation and stuff like that, and it was all in English. Okay, he gave them some guiding materials and left it with them, saying, I'll come back anyway. Even I don't know, there is no hotel, nothing to stay out here. Where will I stay? So you find out the dabba is going to be there. I'll come back in another 2 months time and I'll meet you. So this group of students, when he comes back in 2 months time, he finds that one of the girls, they said, we haven't understood anything, this, that, and then finally one girl says, there's only one line that I've understood, which is like, she just parrots one line from whatever the content they had, that know some cell aberration or something, cell aberration. That was only the collective group of words that they had picked up. So he scored them as 30% learning has happened. Then what he did was, he said that I still have to make them learn. How do I make them learn? He got hold of another girl whose role was only she understands a little bit of English. That was the difference from the rest of the group. And her role was to encourage others, saying, wow, very good, nice progress. Whenever they are trying or reaching anything, they have to just say that. Very good progress. That was her only role. Okay. She actually did that, and next time he comes back, this group of children, they have managed to pick it up, and they are in some state to share that story of how it happens. Of course, it's not as good as what you would learn in, say, MS Ramaya classroom, but not everyone is as privileged as us, right? So these people, they learned from there, and what this experiment showed the world, and we need to be mindful of, if you leave a group of children, not one or two, group with the internet, with the faculty's role being giving them the big questions, and the other thing is the granny cloud, where you have this element of, very good, wow, good thinking, keep it up, this kind of motivation, you would reach somewhere. And if you are looking at learning as the key to India's future, we cannot deny that, when we are growing forward and if we have to reach all those numbers, the 2030 targets as we are looking at, we definitely need to do more of this, where we have to create those big questions, inspire people, nudge people to go in that direction, find things out for themselves, and we'll do it. That's something that I really wanted to share.
Beautiful. I love that story. Being a facilitator, giving all the tools, allow them to explore, will actually help them grow faster.
And the granny club.
And absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful.
So I have a job.
Okay, so I'm making a quick transition now to the industry, what happens in each of our organizations. So, open to all of you again. We just have 10 minutes. I just got a heads up. How does your organization assess the learning needs of your workforce, and how is this information used to shape training and development programs? The second part, only 2 parts are there. How does your learning and development team collaborate with other departments to ensure that learning initiatives are aligned with business goals and objectives and contribute to the overall success of your organization?
Check. I'll give you 3 examples of how we do it. We don't set a learning curriculum at all in our organization. That might surprise a lot of y'all. If learning has to happen, it has to happen at the individual level. And it is their responsibility. We've given them, like she was saying, all the tools, and the 97th element is Berkelium. And for that, you don't have to teach students in school. Just imagine if you stop teaching everything that can be available at the click of your button and you teach them things like collaboration, creativity, looking at ambiguity and things that will change organizations and the future. That would have been even more lovelier. But that's a side note. Coming back to that, then they decide that particular competencies are needed for particular skills. They assess themselves, all on themselves. Then they decide what are the various training programs that need to be done, or what are the initiatives. Let me say, we don't believe too much in training programs, but we more believe in communities of practice. We believe in projects that you can do. We believe in collaborative work that you can do internally and externally, because the education from there, probably 6 months down the line, it'll be the reverse. They will remember 90%, Atulji, after they've learned it. So after that, the second part of the training is once they've understood what it is, we have cohorts that have similar requirements, and they form multifunctional task force internally that learn together and see how this learning can be translated into a value add for the organization. So that's the different way of how we take it. Everyone has a budget to themselves, and they can decide either to waste it or use it for whatever training they think will take them to the next level. And what we've realized is by doing this, by putting the responsibility of training and development upon the individual, the enthusiasm, the morale, and the productivity that we get is much more higher than we pushing content onto them.
One more point to add, Suraj. How do we assess in your organization how the assessment of training needs are done?
See, ours is a traditional organization, and we know that particular levels and particular roles will require particular competencies because it has to be certified and validated by EASA, FAA, DGCA, or the other regulatory authorities. So that is exactly available. When we put someone into the process, they know what is the competency level that they need to reach in the different skills. And once they have reached that, they can self-certify themselves, validate against the different opportunities that we have, and thereby upgrade their competency matrix, which then is approved by the manager, that remains as evidence that yes, they have the ability and the technology on the technical side. Of course, on the behavioral side, a lot is available. For us, we've got a large MOOC, we've got Cornerstone on Demand, we've got Pluralsight, we've got Udemy, and all the other opportunities for them to learn. And that is important whether you like it or not. Every employee, you will laugh at this, but it is true, every employee in every organization is educating themselves for their next job. Okay? Whether you like it or not, now the onus lies on the organization whether you give him the next job or someone else will.
I know we're running out of time, but in the building on what Suraj said, I think. Can you hear me? At the back? Okay. So I think what we're trying to do, first of all, we are making that mindset shift within the L&D function itself. The mindset which used to be earlier, that we know what is important for our employees. We know what our employees should learn. We're moving away from that mindset, and what we believe today is employees know what they need to know, what they need to learn. So what we have, a journey that we've embarked on is called Uberization of talent supply chain processes. Learning cannot be looked at in isolation. We'll have to look at learning as an integral part of the overall talent management processes, talent supply chain processes. So the talent marketplace is available to everyone. So the hiring manager has access to talent. Talent has access to opportunities. So we have created those platforms and systems which enable that. The employee can log into the system and decide what path he or she would like to take. The manager can log into the system and find out which talent he or she should look at. So it's a marketplace, and it is free for all. It is not controlled by anyone. Everybody has access. Everybody has the right to decide the path they want to take.
Yeah, just to add that, two things. In my experience, if you look at a typical manufacturing organization, earlier the supervisor or boss has to decide what my subordinate is to learn for this year. We don't know exactly. It is his own wish that you have to do this. But today it is not so. The learning or assessment happens at three levels. One is at the operating level, one is at the middle management at the supervisor level, one at the top level. If you look at the operator level, people work really on the line in the shops. They are clear what they need to do. For example, each operator or the technician knows that what is his PQ, CDMS, like productivity, quality, cost, as far as his workstation is concerned. So probably in these areas, if there is any deviation, variation comes, you will be able to recognize, because today's, the management systems have been evolved. Every day, every week, they have these regular discussions with the team in the morning. It's called morning meeting, 5 minutes. It is just given as an input. This where area has been learned. Automatically, it's an indication over a period of, the 6 months or 1 year that individually picks up what is his learning needs. And he will tell, that I'll go and learn this. Today, classic examples, many companies have come up with, to say with Toyota, they have a beautiful initial training system called Fundamental Skills Training System, if you go FST. Guys, he just trained within a week how to pick up 5-6 bolts in his left hand, 5-6 bolts in right hand. Exactly when it is moving at the takt time on the line, without any difficulty, he will fix it. Probably if I and you go and do it, we may need 15 days or we may drop the bolt. This is how skills, that too he will have to tighten that bolt with the required torque and all. So that is where, if he has not met that, the line efficiency comes down. So at each and every level of the work job workstations, assessment is made by these team supervisors and in that particular time. Whereas if you come to middle level managers, of course, it is a combination of both techno as well as the commercial areas. Probably would have had some lot of fighting with his colleagues that, is not a good team player. Probably, he was not able to communicate, present properly. This would have been also picked up by his thing. So this is where one assessment happens. In the senior level, of course, once again, based on the project, what they are handling, where they are not able to succeed. For all these companies, have created a beautiful learning platforms in today's organization. This has been assessed over a period of time. What has happened earlier, it was done once a year. It's not so in companies. Every 3 months, 6 months, companies started that one has to undergo learning or learning or upscaling his knowledge in the particular area. This is the current trend in the manufacturing industries.
So plan, act, assess is a cyclical process. Great. Nilanjana, would you want to add?
We do something pretty much ditto for most of it, but one thing that we've done little differently, since this generative AI and all of it are coming in, we also incidentally have quite a lot of people who are little on the senior side, not the youngsters who have the gumption to pick up everything by their own and say, kya hai isme, I can crack it. So what we did for these generative AI and things is we handpicked a couple of courses and we told people, form these groups and let's complete these courses. So what we are doing is, instead of leaving them on their own to pick up these things, we are nudging them, going that extra mile to say, ye course na bahut easy hai. We picked it up, Andrew NG, Coursera, ekdam easiest course. Put it up saying that, go through it, then let's sit together and discuss. So what happens is, some of these big words or fad words, give you that element of fear, कि I will not be able to pick it up. And this particular thing we've consciously broken down by putting in this group system and getting people together, and then they saying, this is very simple, this is logical, this is all common sense, this is very much understandable. So we've tried doing it a little differently for these kind of, few topics, Gen AI, ML, all of these kind of things, which the seniors might freak out. We've put in this structure around it, special interest group and things. People keep talking and they flash their certificates, so they also feel very proud. All of those are things which also, no matter how old we are, we pretty much do the same stuff. So those things are there. That's something that I just wanted to add.
Wonderful. So it's like, do it, fight, flight, or fight.
Don't let them freeze.
Okay.
So it's like whatever it is, don't let them freeze. फ्लाइट भी है तो उसके साथ ही हम लोग भी भाग रहे हैं. The L&D team is there. आ जाओ ना, क्या है, आज बैठते हैं. Yeah, we'll sit together, we'll discuss it.
Absolutely.
Fight तो we'll fight it out. Deadline है, by March end you need to finish this. If you don't finish it, then there's no promotion.
How many nudges?
All of those are there. Otherwise, there's no technical career path for you. It's an internal job market, right?
True.
It's a very big job place, which is all open there. As much as we would love to retain you, at the same time, if you don't do these things, you are not fit for staying. So we kind of do all of it, but in a different style, and we don't let people freeze. That's the only thing that we kind of look at.
Very true. Ma'am, you want to add 2 points? Yes, we'll conclude with this.
Yeah. So our institute has a strong mentoring process. So the moment you say, do you have any problem, that fellow will never come back to you. So the mentoring process is done in a very subtle way to understand what are the gaps and to ensure that he genuinely comes out and discusses with you what he intends to plan in the next 2 years of his stay at the institute. Having said that, we as faculty members ourselves need to evolve as good mentors. If we are not strong in mentoring, I don't see how we will be able to lead the path for the student. That is one. So there are 3 points here. What is the institution doing? One is the faculty, the second stakeholder will be the student, and the third is the institution itself. So we as faculty members are actually making good and very good efforts to collaborate with industry to do joint programs, management development programs. Sometimes we also do collaborative research because a lot of organizations want academic research reports to be generated and given to them. So that is one way in which we as faculty genuinely try to involve with senior industry members. The second, from the students' point of view, and we are also doing online courses, Coursera, Udemy, NPTEL, where we as mentors faculty mentors try to bring in those inputs that we have learned through the online courses and bring it inside the classroom. And the second thing, since we do a lot of assessments through online courses, one of the assessment tools that we have done in the last 2 years is to integrate one online course into your internal assessment. Say if I'm teaching a course like knowledge management, let him do an online course, show a certificate, you do a 5 minutes viva for him to understand what is it that he has learned in that online course and give him the marks. That is one way in which you can ensure that he has done something which is very, very updated, which is required from the industry point of view. The third thing, from the institution's point of view, I'm sure everyone is aware today, we are all struggling for rankings, quality, NIRF rankings, NBA, accreditations, and all those processes. So thanks to those rankings, we are all working very hard to bring in quality inside our teaching learning process and into the entire processes of the institute. Yes, we are all setting benchmarks. Rankings are important. We cannot deny that. They're important in all aspects. So the faculty, the students, and the institution, all three of us are continuously learning to keep us for survival and sustenance. All the 3 points. Let's not forget, before I conclude, even the Pandavas learnt new skills when they were in the exile. Bhima learnt how to cook. Somebody learnt how to dance. Somebody learnt how to play the mridangam and be in the attire of a woman. So when the Pandavas learnt during their exile, we are just very, very ordinary human beings, and we should continuously learn and evolve as a good human being to ensure that I as an academician, I would vouch saying that if I am not a good facilitator, I cannot expect my students to be good. Thank you,
In
Arpita.
addition to Pandavas, madam, during pandemic also we have learned, we all have become great chefs actually, right, during the 2 years that we had in hand. Okay, thank you all our esteemed panel members to share your insights. I hope it was a valuable session for you all. In the interest of time, we couldn't take the questions from audience, but if you have one question, we will take it, please. So we have many questions. I'll take one in the interest of time. Otherwise, I have to take permission from them to extend the time.
There's one small hand which has gone up. We must entertain her.
Yes, please.
Yes.
We can't ignore. Yeah.
Excuse me.
So after her.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then why should we prove to another person that we are good?
You are your best friend. So you keep a benchmark for yourself. You don't have to prove anybody. That's my take. How about others? Anyone who wants to add?
You're absolutely right, because if you benchmark with others, you will never be the best. You need to break out of the normal standards to be better than others so that you become the benchmark for the future. And exactly when Professor Padmaja was talking about, NIFR and this and that and all, why don't you make a niche for yourself, which is beyond all these things, and NIFR and the, ranking authorities will come after you saying, why don't you take our ranking? Get beyond all that and be that in personal life or in organizationals, be that star, be that guiding star that sets the standards for the others to follow. Thereby what will happen is they will not bother about whether you have certification, you don't have certification, but you can prove that the engineers that I give out, I certify that they are engineers. I certify that they are managers. Not trying to be boastful about myself, but I'll give you an example. Today, after we asked our head of engineering to move out, they gave me the responsibility, the head of engineering of 2,000 people in an aerospace environment, and I'm not an engineer. Make people like that can move across the vertical anywhere. Thank you, and don't forget that when you grow up. Huh?
Great question.
So good afternoon to everybody. So my name is John. My question is, I go with the theme, learning is the key to India's growth, right? Story, that's the one. So, how do you see learning making as a common platform to India? As India has been divided by various forms with, say that the culture, tradition, whatever. So how can we make learning as a common platform, just like how we all use our phones, in spite of our generation gaps? We all speak English, which will become a common platform. So how can India, or how we see learning as a common platform to connect with?
You can do that with tech. So the person in the village and the city get the same education.
So we have SWAM, which
Sorry?
is accessible to anybody and everybody.
But yet, the penetration level is not that great, right? So that is something that we need to consider as well. So to be factual and real, like how I spend on my screen depends on the other person as well. So there should be something purpose-driven in the learning, not just, we should not enforce them or push them. There should be some purpose-driven where I involve myself voluntarily.
So I guess when there is a need
Exactly.
to learn, like if you cannot push a horse to drink water unless that horse is thirsty.
Exactly.
So it's exactly like that. So when there is a dire need to, because requirements keep changing. So if there is a dire need that I need to do it, so need will become must.
But to answer your question, since I'm not being recorded, I can be politically incorrect. As long as politics and commerce and commercial mindset is always there, education will not be the same for everyone in India.
Okay. So in that case,
That answered. Anybody wants to add, please? Yeah?
can I have, in that case, so probably the learning should start from the education, right? Where it becomes a common platform for everybody. And that is where probably we can build ourselves.
I think there were a lot of conversations which I think I even saw in Atul's presentation where he was talking about the subjects and all of it. See, there's a lot which is there in terms of concepts, theories, understanding the basics which need to be made fundamentally strong. Maybe in terms of learning, that's something that I see as a very deep need even with respect to myself. You know, when I revisit what is it that I have learned with respect to physics, chemistry, those fundamentals, if had I not learned it as a curriculum kind of a thing, but had really appreciated those fundamentals, I feel I would have been better off. That's what I have to say about myself. And if I look around and see what is the application of these, even every one of us have that niche area or that passion saying ki, I want to apply it here, I want to know more of this. Maybe that nudge that we were talking about as teachers, as faculty, the big questions that need to be created could be in those directions which start making that meaning. Just to give you an example from my own learning, in masters I had a course on Japanese and Korean economy, which at that too agriculture, and I had no interest in Japanese or Korean agriculture. At that particular point of time, I thought, why am I studying it? But when I started working with Harman and Samsung integration happened, there was a lot which from those notes actually helped me understand how do those cultures, how do those decisions get made, and what's coming flowing down. So you never know when you're going to connect the dots. Just embrace things. You don't always have to say that I'm going to apply it tomorrow. Entrepreneurship, for that matter, is also not something that, you don't get pressurized saying that I'm studying entrepreneurship, so tomorrow I have a startup, day after it has to be unicorn. It doesn't work that way. It's okay to take your time. It's okay to explore. Connect the dots. One day you will.
Absolutely. I hope that answered your question. Yep. So we will wrap up now, and over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I now call upon our National Vice President, Professor N. Sambasiva Rao, and our senior ISTD member, Mr. Atul Sharma, National Council member, to felicitate our moderator and our panelists for this session.
Thank you. Strong? Okay. Thank you. Oh, I can see the ISTD logo this side, yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. ये मैं हूँ क्या?
Thank you, sirs. Thank you, ma'am. I'd just like to make a quick announcement. There's just a quick announcement. Uh, Students, please collect your certificates after the conclusion of this conference. You can collect it outside the conference arena. Um, Academicians, ISTD members, and friends from various organizations, we have a token of appreciation for you, and we please request you to collect it on your way out after the valedictory session concludes.